Welcome to Yellow Brick Road. I am Jordan, and today I'm going to talk about the grifter. Wait, I'll say it backwards. The fucking fool and the grifter. That's right, Joe Rogan and Tim Pool. But first, please consider donating to Devon's Journey to Recovery. The GoFundMe link is in the description box. Click the link, read the story, check out the other donations, make a donation yourself. None of the money goes to us, it goes to charity, so when you donate, you're helping out one of our subscribers and his wife, help them pay medical bills. If you don't have the money to spare, then hang on to it. Right, we're all in this shit. We're all in this together. Solidarity, brothers and sisters. So yeah, if you have money lying around, please donate. Devon's Journey to Recovery, GoFundMe link in the description box. Alright, so as you can see on screen, I have one of Joe Rogan's clips. He had Tim Pool on his show. One of the I'd probably call him the worst political commentator. Not ever. He might be number 2. It's like it's a race between him and Steven Crowder for second place. You know, second and third place, they're kind of racing. Number 1 is Bill O'Reilly. Not even close. He's the champ. He's the king. He's the winner. He's the greatest. He's the GOAT. No question, Bill O'Reilly's number 1. But Tim Pool, he's up there, man. He's at least in the top 5. And for sheer grifting, right? I don't think he's a neocon. I think he would sell a neocon foreign policy or whatever. Not saying he does this now, but he would for the fucking money. I definitely believe that. Whatever brings that cash in. If you went full neocon, I don't think you can get away with it right now, but you know, like little things here and there, you know, China bad. Venezuela bad. You know, drug lords. Listen to Bellingcat. I'll trust them. So you'll do that. And Joe Rogan will let it could be anyone. George W. Bush, Dick Cheney could be sitting in front of him, and they will have the easiest interview of their lives. And because, you know, Rogan doesn't want any conflict, right? He's too busy. You know, he's a busy guy. He's got the UFC commentary, right? Oh wait, that's kind of done right now. Well, he does stand-up comedy. Yeah, you can't really do that either. He is a dad, right? He has kids, you got to take him to school, but fuck, school's done with too. Sounds like Rogan's schedule's been cleared up. Wonder what he does with his time. I don't know. Maybe he's researching circumcision because all those kids get hurt from circumcision. But, you know, CIA, no problem. You guys can sit comfortably here, say your talking points, and no problem. That's right, Soleimani. He killed over 600 Americans, Joe. Yeah, no pushback. Come back on, you know, we're friends. We're not yelling at each other, that means we're friends. Alright, so I'm just gonna, as you can tell already, this is just me with random thoughts, just going over shit. Obviously, I'm exaggerating on certain things I just said, but that's basically the story of these two and how I view them. One's a fucking idiot with no fucking backbone. That's Joe Rogan. And one's a grifter who purposely has no fucking backbone. No allegiances, no moral code, just, where's the money? Follow it. Lead, guide me. Alright, so here we go. Are we heading to war? Are we heading for war with China? Tim Pool and Joe Rogan.
So this is, I was reading about this. The Atlantic wrote about this in 2015. Are we headed for a war with China? And Thucydides' trap says that whenever a growing power seeks to upset the dominant power, it results in war. And out of 16 times over the past 500 years, it has happened. So people have been predicting a U.S.-China war for a really long time because of this historical precedent. It's not.
Aren't we usually like goaded into war, right? Even like, World War II, where people would say is a good war. It's like even that one. It's like, was FDR like fucking antagonizing Japan or whoever to get them to do Pearl Harbor, and that led us into war? Some people are saying that. I'm just saying. A friend I know. Tim Pool inside joke. So I don't think it's just random accident these things happen. Right? Wasn't there like an assassination in World War I? Right? That led to all this shit in Europe. And then our thing was like the Lusitania. I've been watching too much Opie and Anthony with Patrice O'Neill lately. You can probably see it in the recommendations. Yeah. There it is right there. But yeah. It's like, are these things like, are you just saying, whenever there's two powers and there's one that wants to do whatever, like, war happens, Malthusian, whatever the fuck he said. Yeah, that makes it sound like it's magic, like it just happens. Like it's a rule of nature that happens. But anyways, here we go.
Not absolute, but it looks like, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a historical expert or anything like that, but it looks extremely probable to me. I've had a lot of people get mad at me saying that I was fear-mongering by bringing this up, but the U.S. just sent 2 warships into the South China Sea, which China considers their own territory.
Now, people, and credible people, would look at you and call you fear-mongering, or I think, Steve from Slow News Day, where he's like, I think he said something like this, like, I don't know if this dude's like a fucking CIA asset, but he behaves like one. He definitely behaves like one. So it's like, there's a reason why this happens. I think it's because when you're grifting and you're just following, like, what will get people's attention and what will satisfy the people that are watching this. And it's like, oh, those people are buying into State Department talking points. And you're just repeating them, saying like, this is what the audience wants. This is why they come watch my shit. This is how I make my money. And when you're doing that, you don't realize you're just saying State Department talking points. Thus, people with, thinking skills might look at you and be like, oh, this dude's like a plant from the fucking State Department, or he's or whatever, agent provocateur, or, he's a shill. Thus, they will see when you say something, they'll be like, oh, he's fear-mongering because he works for the fucking Trump State Department. Yeah. It just looks that way. Now, me and you, we both know what's going on, right? I understand you're just grifting. And it just happens to be that Trump is a neocon douchebag. And you're just, you're feeding off the Trump thing, and it just happens to be, neocon looking. Let's continue.
When you look at what China's been doing in terms of misinformation, clearly lying about the numbers, I can't remember who did this. I think it may have been Germany, removing China's numbers from the charts, saying they're not real. So China's been misleading the rest of the world, withholding information on how bad the infection is. They sent a strike group, an aircraft carrier, through the South China Sea near Taiwan, putting Japan on alert. The U.S.'s aircraft carrier, Theodore Roosevelt, was disabled because of the coronavirus. They evacuated 80% of the personnel. The U.S. does what they call an elephant walk in Guam, where they have all these bombers. Then the U.S. pulls them out, because apparently China's got some kind of weapon that can just blanket Guam and wipe out our forces. Next thing I know, we sent...
what kind of weapon do they have that can do that?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm getting my...
Of course, Rogan asked the irrelevant question. That'd be relevant if he asked the other questions first. Then that question become like, oh, okay, that's kind of relevant. But he asked it without asking, like, how do you know it? It's like, can I push back against this? Is there other information out there? Should I have another guest sitting next to you that counters any information you're saying right now? Like, those are supposed to happen first. And then you say, fuck, what kind of weapon could do that? But we know Rogan's dumb. He'll call himself dumb. to shed off any type of responsibility. It's like, I'm an idiot comedian, guys. Don't listen to me. And then, meanwhile, as you can see, 1.7 million views on just a clip of the. All right, I think the whole podcast got there. It is 3.9 million views. Don't listen to me. It's like if I hope people just take that seriously. Like, let's just not listen to him. Fuck this guy. You'll see tone changes and everything. I really think so. Anyways.
Information from just reading peripheral stories. I'm not a military guy, anything like that. But it really does, so the U.S. just sent 2 warships into the South China Sea. And I think they're doing this because one of the things I read from a military website was that the strike force is testing U.S. resolve. The last time that China has done this, where they sent a strike force around Taiwan, actually tried to, take it in some fashion, the U.S. sent a couple super carriers in, everything calmed down.
Now that sounds, once again, like, right, the quack like a duck thing. Straight up State Department type manufacturing consent type stuff to where, some Army general said, we need to protect U.S. interests. Or if we pull out now, we're gonna make ourselves look weak. So we can't pull out now. China's testing our resolve. So, we had, Trump, the Boris strongman he is, going to send some ships there and show him what's up. All right, and by the way, you see how his demeanor and how he's behaving here? This is going to be a multi-leveled video, by the way. You see how the Tim Pool behavior and how he's talking? I'm not an expert, I don't know. And, this is what I read, this is what I heard. And, this is what I heard. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh, all right. But then when he's, like, by himself in his little box, I mean, literally, in his little, you see the corner there? In his little box right there. It's like, he sounds a little different. Sounds a little swaggy and shit. A little, just the glasses, fixed the jacket. A little more confident sounding and a little more, I'd say direct and definitive. Let's check it out. Maybe I'm seeing things. You tell me. Let's hear.
The entire intelligence community has been consistently providing critical support to U.S. policymakers and those responding to the COVID-19 virus, which originated in China. The intelligence community also concurs with the wide scientific consensus that the COVID-19 virus was not man-made or genetically modified. A statement from the Office of Acting Director of National Intelligence, Richard Grenell. As we do in all...
Remember that name, Grenell? Remember that dude from the Cassandra Fairbanks and what's that dude's name? Swartz? Andy Swartz? Some shit like that. And the whole thing about Julian Assange, how Cassandra gave Assange and WikiLeaks like a heads up. That's what's going to happen because she caught wind of it. Because this Swartz guy, Arthur Swartz, was working for Richard Grenell. You may or may not have cut a deal to get Julian Assange arrested and potentially extradited. So that's a name. Like, if I was reading that, I'm not saying everyone has to like know about all this stuff, but I'm saying like this happens too often with this guy's fucking content, right? The virus that originated in Wuhan, and like, do you know that? How do you know that? Is that just a fact now? Let's continue a little bit more.
Cases. The community's experts respond by surging resources and producing critical intelligence on issues vital to the U.S. national security. The IC will continue to rigorously examine emerging information and intelligence to determine whether the outbreak began through contact with infected animals or if it was the result of an accident at a laboratory in Wuhan. U.S. officials have ruled out the possibility the virus was created by China to be used as a bioweapon. Some said the pathogen may have escaped from the lab amid China's efforts to identify and combat the virus, either with the same or greater capabilities than the U.S. In a show of defiance, China has rebuffed U.S. request that it allow inspectors access to the lab. And so there you go. Now there's reporting that Dr. Fauci gave a grant to this Wuhan Institute, so some people are concerned now that they're kind of pushing back on us. On Thursday, Trump said, "The world is suffering greatly," while speaking of China's response. Quote, "This is something that could have been contained at the original location, and I think it could have been contained relatively easily," Trump said. "They were either unable to or they chose not to." And the Associated, and I'm going to add this myself, the Associated Press reported that China knew on the 14th of human-to-human transmission, and they withheld this information, resulting in the serious crisis you see now. I wonder if anyone's going to blame Donald Trump for this come November. I'm sure some people are. If you go on Reddit, the whole thing is nothing but left-wing propaganda, and it's really annoying. I don't care if you hate the president, man, and I say it in almost every single videos. I care that you tell the truth. And the number one post on Reddit earlier today was someone saying, if you would have told me November 2016 that Donald Trump's presidency would end, or his first term would end with the country dying in a massive economic collapse, I would have believed you. As if it's his fault. As if Donald Trump snapped his finger and made the virus. As if any of us knew how bad it was going to be. As if we could have controlled what China was doing when they were lying to us.
See, a lot more confident by himself. And also once again, selling in there, like, yeah, China did this. Without a doubt. I'm just going to say China did this. No questioning it. Here's a clip. Here's a clip.
Now, I want you to think about this analogy. Now, follow me here. Imagine you're a detective, and there's a murder that you're called to. So you arrive on the scene, and there's a dead body. And the first thing you notice as a detective is that there's a known murderer who lives right across the street. Then you find out that he's been researching new ways to kill people online in the weeks leading up to the murder. Now you find out he even reached out to other murderers in a foreign country about their methods and went as far as to buy some material on the subject from these foreign murderers. Clearly this is the Wuhan lab we're talking about here. So at this point, as the detective, your main suspect is this known murderer who is right next to the crime. Because that makes sense. Now, even if nothing else turns up, this guy is still only a suspect and not yet proven to be guilty. And maybe he's just a murderer who was indeed planning to murder in general, but did not actually commit this crime. And you should consider, as a good detective, if someone might have tried to take advantage of the fact that this guy was a known murderer, choosing to commit the crime where he would be accused as a way to cover up their act. But unless more evidence shows up, there's no reason to believe anyone else was behind this other than the local murderer. Or at the very least, you have no other logical alternatives. But then you get wind of another known murderer. Not as close to the scene of the crime, but another foreign murderer. And one who you find out upon investigation was in fact planning to murder the exact person who was killed. And he was actually caught in the planning stage by local authorities and temporarily locked up in his foreign country. Now, they ultimately released him shortly after, but his extremely suspect relationship with the local authorities might explain why. Then, upon his release, he went on a killing spree around his local area. And each of these murders had the exact calling card as the one that you're investigating in the other country. Now, you can even find a clear train of events that shows that this foreign murderer, prior to the crime, took a trip over to the area that you're currently investigating. And people even disappeared while he was there, just moments away from where the scene of the crime was. And of course, to top it all off, you find out that this foreign murderer had been caught numerous times before all of this, trying to frame this local murderer right in front of you. Now, what would you do? As you stand back and look at the situation, you've got this guy right in front of you. He's a known murderer. He was even planning murders, researching things, bought something from the other country. But you can't prove it. He's a murderer, but no connect direct tie to the murder itself. So he's a suspect. But then you have this other murderer who, given, is further away, but has a very clear record, even doing the same things, planning the same things. In fact, even finding a trail over to the area in which you're talking about where people went missing. Wouldn't you then start to go, wait a minute, yes, this guy's closer, but this evidence is really hard to ignore. So what would you do? Would you double down on the local murderer because he's right there in front of you? Or would you start to realize the evidence is more sound from this other person, and then consider how that might have been manipulated? At the end of the day, I hope you can see what I'm trying to say with this analogy. The idea being that the local murderer is the Wuhan lab and the foreign murderer is the Fort Detrick lab. And the idea that the local murderer was buying things, coronavirus, from North Carolina University. So you have all these ties, but then you find out that the foreign murderer, Fort Detrick, was clearly completely tied in with all of this, including working on coronaviruses, working with bats, had the same things happening around them, including having things happen around them when they went to Wuhan right around the same area. Now, every single thing I used in that analogy is in fact rooted in something that actually happened. I wrote that out for fun today and decided I wanted to tell you about it. But every single part of that, including framing other people or planning to attack, I mean, all these things tie in with things that actually happened in Fort Detrick. Now, again, I'm not saying we know for sure, as I don't know for sure. But I think it's a little bit dishonest to be staring at what's going on here and not realize that there's nothing but circumstantial, surface level evidence. That yes, there was a lab in Wuhan. Yes, there's a BSL-4 lab. Yes, they're working on coronavirus. Yes, they do weird things in that lab, as all BSL-4 labs do. But at that point, it could be them still, but there's nothing to actually tie them to it. And in fact, it makes a lot of sense to suggest that somebody else would say, hey, that's a perfect place to put it. Now, of course, all the people out there are going to suggest that I'm trying to drive you in this other direction. I'm not. I'm just trying to show you that there is alternative theories to what the mainstream is trying to force down your throat. And it should be very alarming that it's not just the left or right, it's both of them. Seemingly, one side that was saying, oh, yeah, how dare you call this the Chinese virus, is now grudgingly forcing in the same narrative. Because that was always the point, guys. And I'm hoping this analogy can open your eyes as we go through some of this to realize that there's quite a bit more going on here. This is what's being spread. The Washington Times, apparently from a insider information document coming from the U.S. government. Wuhan lab, most likely coronavirus source, according to the U.S. government analysis. Now, I know this is something we talk about on the show, and all people in the chat are probably already laughing right now, because every time it says most likely, most logical, the most plausible alternative. This means we don't know. Most likely means it could be, but it also means we don't know. And that should be the very most apparent, obvious thing you see right off the bat. Most likely means they're not certain. There is no hardcore evidence. There's circumstantial, surface level stuff that says, well, they have a lab. They also work on coronavirus, so most likely them, because that's where we're looking at. Again, it definitely could be. But just because you're staring at the lab, and that's where we were told it started, in fact, right now, as we have evidence, as I've shown on this show, coming from every direction, that this clearly started way before we're being told, but ignoring all of that for some ridiculous reason, we're going to keep looking at Wuhan and say it started in December. And they lied about it in December, right? Because we didn't know until January, even though it's clear it started in November, even by China's information.
Now, Ryan from Last American Vagabond does, it's a lot of information, right? He's going in all different directions. And obviously the clip I play you is less about information and more of just dumb guy logic. Just using dumb guy logic. How do you look at this? Right? His little story about like a detective looking into whatever, a murder case, and considering the evidence. And it's like all the evidence, not just whatever the State Department tells us, which is what this fucking guy does. Which is why people will say, oh, this dude's a fucking shill or a creep or whatever the fuck. And I think he's just a grifter. And he's also dumb, so he doesn't know. I don't think he realizes what he's doing in those regards. He knows but doesn't know a little bit. And it's a little murky there. But if you're looking at The Last American Vagabond, you'll also look at like his little story about Reddit, and people are saying, "See, Trump would destroy the economy. I knew it. Told you." Like, right? Those guys are idiots, and obviously, grifters will jump on the idiots and use them as, I guess the word is cannon fodder. I'll use the idiots to make myself look better, or even look better amongst Trump fans. But Last American Vagabond has went over was this, maybe this could have been avoidable a while ago. Are they lying about how many masks they have? How come they shipped over millions of masks to Israel when we needed things here in America? Why was that happening? Maybe they're lying about when this whole thing started, right? Because who's to say the shit wasn't around beforehand, right? Ryan from Last American Vagabond will talk about, they call it the Spanish flu, but it started in Kansas. So, according to the information he's come across, right? Obviously, I'm going to link his channel in the description box. So you guys, because he has, I can't link every single one of his videos because it'd be fucking probably hundreds in the in the description box. So I'll link to his channel, and then I'll link to his channel and the video that I showed you, and you can go over through his whole fucking catalog. He's been nonstop. Also, you'll notice this, right? You'll hear Tim Pool say things like, "Oh, my channel, it's being deplatformed and demonetized, and it's pushed down in the ranks because that's why I can't talk about this too much. Every time I talk about it, I'm deranked and blah, 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 blah." Well, just looking at it, not saying this means anything, but when I look down and I see he still gets 102,000 views from a video from yesterday. I see the word COVID in there. I see Biolab. I see Trump. I see, is there China in there? Yeah, no China in there. But you see the words, the COVID, Trump, blah, blah, Biolab, right? And I don't see any disclaimers here. Where's the disclaimer? There's usually a disclaimer. The videos I watch, they get disclaimers. They get Wikipedia things, right? Like when you watch like a 9/11 video, there's always a Wikipedia thing there, trying to correct whatever's said in the video, of course. Where's that for 10? Yeah, I look here, and I said, there's that right there. What? Why is there a disclaimer here? COVID-19 disclaimer. Disclaimer. Basically, we're going to correct whatever you hear in this video. Come here and watch this. Right, and you see the video. Wuhan lab, most likely coronavirus source, U.S. government analysis finds. Of course it's true. Trump is boorish. All right, so let's continue on with this video. I'm telling you, I'm going to be all over the fucking place. Here we go. Hopefully you can read where my mind's going when I'm doing all this. I'm just floating around. Here we go.
Now our super carriers in the region were disabled by COVID.
Well, didn't they go into a group exercise with Iran after we killed that guy?
Oh, I don't know.
There was a group exercise with China and Iran.
We killed that guy, wasn't there?
In the sea. They did something like some sort of show of unity right after Trump had that guy assassinated.
Do you see what happened with those Iranian gunboats? They were swarming the U.S. naval vessels, and then Trump ordered them, if they do it again, sink them, blow them up. Do you know that Venezuela tried commandeering a civilian yacht a couple weeks ago?
What?
Venezuelan naval ship crashed into a German-owned private cruise liner. They were trying to as my understanding of the story, because I know a lot of people they're not going to want to provide that analysis. They were trying to steal it. So they claim
steal it.
Yeah, I think the official word from Venezuela was they thought this was a fake cruise ship with assassins from Maduro or something. So they ordered it to come into their waters because they weren't. A Venezuelan naval ship started ramming it, sank itself.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. And so
So, like I said, it's like you got like, the WHO, China propaganda. They're just spouting Chinese propaganda, and it's like literally on your this happens almost all the freaking time with this guy. It's like literally on your own freaking channel. It's like, now I don't know what happened with the cruise ship and all of that. I don't know what happened, but they put it as some laughable thing that some group or whatever could be masquerading as a civilian ship and then trying to go into Venezuela. I mean, let's look at this. Let's see. Ex-Green Beret led failed attempt to oust Venezuela's Maduro. Now, what they mean by oust is kill. What they mean is assassinate. That's what they mean by that. They don't mean, we're going to, put him under arrest, hands behind the back, and walk him out of there. I think it means straight up just kill. Literally a picture of dudes with shields guarding him. And they put the words oust. Oh, Jesus. Let's read this first couple paragraphs. It says, the plan was simple, but perilous. Some 300 heavily armed volunteers would sneak into Venezuela from the northern tip of South America. Along the way, they would raid military bases in the socialist country and ignite a popular rebellion that would end in President Nicolas Maduro's arrest. What could go wrong? As it turns out, pretty much everything. The ringleader of the plot is now jailed in the U.S. on the narcotics charges, but they're going after Maduro for being a narco dude. Authorities in the U.S. and Colombia are asking questions about the role of his muscular American advisor, a former Green Beret, who has no connections to the CIA or the military or anything like that. He's an independent dude. And dozens of desperate combatants who flocked to secret training camps in Colombia, so they have been left to fend for themselves amid the coronavirus pandemic. Yeah, it seems like they need some aid. Maybe there's someone who could help out here. Please be highlighted. Yes. One person who allegedly promised support was Rowan Kraft, an eccentric descendant of the cheese-making family who, along with former Trump bodyguard Schiller, was among those meeting with opposition envoys in Miami and Washington. Once again, there's no connections here. These guys are all independent. They just happen to work for this guy at some other point in life, and now they're independent people on their own. Right? At some point, Kraft started raising money among his own circle of fellow trust fund friends for what he described as a private coup to be carried out by Silvercorp, according to two businessmen whom he asked for money. I believe Silvercorp is like a security outfit or a security contractor. Once again, no connections with the CIA or the U.S. government. That is explained explicitly in this article. There's no connection there, according to the guys involved, I guess. Like, what's the cheese guy doing here? What's he doing here? Well, this Kraft allegedly lured prospective donors with the promise of preferential access to negotiate deals in the energy and mining sectors with an eventual Guaido government, said one of the businessmen. It's like Godfather, where there's the dude slicing slicing the cake up. Like, this is your piece here, and this is yours. He provided AP a 2-page unsigned draft memorandum for a 6-figure commitment, he said, was sent by Kraft in October, in which he represents himself as the prime contractor of Venezuela, prime contractor of someone else's country. Yeah, I'm going to decide where everything goes in this country now. This one's going to be exported to France. This one exported to Australia. This one's going to the U.S. This one to Canada. Like, come on, man. It's like blatant. But, you know, Tim, when he's in his box, nice and confident, he'll explain, you know, stories about Venezuela this way.
Venezuela, a very desperate nation. It seems now, based on this story from the BBC, and who knows, I don't know who to trust, but I don't trust Venezuela. They were trying to seize this cruise liner. Well, cruise liners have a lot of resources, valuables, probably food stores and fuel. And it seems like they're trying.
That's right. We're going to feed an entire country with this one cruise ship. But I guess if you take the premise that Maduro is hoarding all the resources for him and his close allies, then I guess the cruise ship narrative would make sense, that they tried to ram the ship to get resources out of it, which I guess means like the tiki bar or something, or you know, beer nuts. They're hanging out in the bar. You can eat those. You know, shit that's on cruises. Hula hoops, much needed.
Trying to force that ship to go into their waters where they could probably have taken control of it. But their naval vessels are pathetic, and when trying to ram the vessel, they sank. I really do.
Their naval ships are pathetic. Pathetic. See how he sounds when he's by himself? And then when he gets, and when he realizes he's going to be in a, you know, actual mass audience, you know, The Hill, if he's talking with Pac-Man, if he's talking with whoever. Not saying Pac-Man has a mass audience, but I'm saying, like, you know, someone where it's like, I'm outside of my box now, so I have to talk a different way. I can't be, Trump's so boorish. I have to be like, you know, I don't trust Trump. I don't trust Trump. It's like, why not? He's boorish. You can't say that shit out loud in front of these people. Like, he's boorish, that's why? He will become a chameleon for whatever audience he's sitting in front of. Right? Tim Pool on Glenn Beck is different than Tim Pool on The Rising. The Hill Rising show thing. Anyways.
Then sometime after, Donald Trump deploys 2 U.S. naval vessels to near Venezuelan waters, which he says are for drug-related operations. I'm not going to...
Probably. You know, shipping coke here and there. I mean, once again, that Green Beret guy and all those dudes have no connection. Even though they were meeting in Miami and Washington, no connection to the U.S. government in any way. They were independent contractors. You know, that's it.
Like, I know a lot of people are going to get heated saying, you know what you're talking about. Yeah. All I know is that's what was reported.
Yeah.
Who knows what that means or what it leads to. But needless to say, with it, you know, look, Russia is withholding wheat exports. Several European countries have closed their borders within the Schengen area. People are starting to hoard food. And we just had a full-page ad in the New York Times, Sunday edition, I think it was from Tyson, saying the food supply chain is breaking and we're getting ready for a major shortage of food.
Yeah, they had to kill 2 million chickens.
Wow.
Because they didn't have anybody to butcher them.
Here's my concern. When you have...
That makes sense. They just kill the chickens because... They had to kill the chickens because we couldn't kill the chickens for food. If you can't kill them for food, you just kill them. That makes sense.
Have these nation states shoring up their borders.
They'll overpopulate. There'll be too much food around.
That's crazy to me when you see Germany and France and Austria closing their borders to each other. Then you get these warships making these movements. You get people desperate for food. You see Venezuela ramming into a cruise ship. I say this, it could be that...
For food, because, you know, they're socialists and they're a starving nation because of socialism. Nothing else going on there.
We're hyper-focused on it because we're bored. We don't normally pay attention to this stuff. We normally pay attention to celebrity gossip and politics, Now that we're not doing anything, we're really focused on what's happening in international territory. Or perhaps it's that we're getting desperate and we're scared as the economy tanks.
Well, if it wasn't for mutually assured destruction, I would say, yeah, we're probably moving into a place of war. But when you have two nuclear superpowers like China and the U.S., it's like, what, what do they do? What are you going to do? One guy going to launch a missile, the other guy's going to launch a missile. Like, what are they going to do? Are they going to go into a full-scale war and wipe out everyone on the planet? Because that's what would happen.
I think so. I do.
Or there's proxy wars that are already happening. You just talked about them, China helping Iran out. Right? Yemen, Syria, all these things. Any connection? You had Mike Baker on, who's an expert. Someone told me, Mike Baker's been in the CIA for blah, blah, blah years. You didn't even serve. Do you know what's going on? First of all, you don't even know if I served or not. You have no idea. Second of all, it's like, was that question brought up? I don't know. You'd think an expert on foreign policy would bring up proxy wars, right? You would think. But, war with China. Because they created a bioweapon that... they created a bioweapon that we created too. Maybe first. Maybe we started this whole thing.
The town of Frederick, Maryland, which is just outside of Washington, D.C., and met a lot of people who were suffering or had family members who had died from rare illnesses. And one thing they all had in common was a theory that the source of these rare illnesses was a local army base called Fort Detrick and some of the secret activities that have been going on there for decades.
I lived on Elm Street, and on the side of the road that I lived on, just counting the 6 houses, everyone had cancer.
So my daughter, at the age of 28 years old, was diagnosed with brain cancer. Then my second daughter gets sick and has tumors in her womb, and they said that this was not genetic but environmental. About a year after that, my wife then gets renal cell carcinoma and dies a year later after that. We have over 1,300 documented cancer victims right now, just in a 1-mile radius. I'll be quite honest with you, it's changed my life so radically, sometimes I don't even know who I am.
1,300 people in a 1-mile radius. And what's causing so much sickness? It turns out all these victims have one thing in common. They live next to a military base called Fort Detrick.
In historic Frederick, Maryland, are the biological warfare laboratories. The volunteers had been positioned on the outside of the test sphere, in which a cloud of biological warfare agent can be generated.
In 2009, Fort Detrick was added to the EPA's Superfund priority list, making Area B, located here, one of the most polluted places in the nation, just across the street from this crowded neighborhood.
We don't drink our tap water.
Who told you that you couldn't drink?
Nobody said you're not allowed to, but it's kind of just a general, known thing in my neighborhood that we don't drink the tap water.
And why is that?
Because we know there's chemicals there.
Let's continue.
The thing is, who would be more willing to wipe out a giant chunk of the population? Would it be China or would it be the United States?
I don't think.
We already did it. We dropped 2 nukes in fucking Nagasaki and Hiroshima. We already did that. It was little third world islands testing nuclear weapons and shit. Oh, it'll be fine, guys. Thanks. Just hang out here.
Plans were already underway to destroy their paradise forever.
Will you ask King Judah that the United States government now wants to attempt to turn this great destructive force into something good for mankind, and that these experiments here at Bikini are the first step in that direction? Tell him that's fine. Everything being in God's hands, it must be good.
87 ships take positions 3 miles off Bikini to suffer the shattering impact of the 5th atomic bomb. Here will be
An armada of warships was assembled in Bikini Lagoon in order to blow them to bits.
The decks of the 73 test ships anchored in Bikini Lagoon are scenes of feverish activity as scientists plot experimental programs designed to furnish data on blast effects of the mighty atom bomb. Animals of many kinds
Animals were strapped to their decks like a perverse Noah's Ark. The experiment was to see how they died, how they burned.
Special ointments are applied to determine their protective qualities. Other parts of the exposed areas being left bare to the atom blast.
3, 2, 1.
Fucking destroying their shit. Destroying generations, because it's not just one thing hits and it's done with. It's more of, the testing stuff was more of, this radiation. We're basically doing this to see what happens to humans. I think we did it on our own soldiers as well. Yeah, generations of families where they'd be considered lucky to not have cancer in their life, even people at a younger age. Let's continue.
I think it'd be the United States. I think it'd be China. And I think it really depends on how
to wipe out a giant chunk of the population. Would it be China or would it be the United States?
I don't think it'd be the United States. I think it'd be China. And I think
it would be China willing to wipe out a large chunk of the population. And it's like, yeah, I guess, but don't you got to put those guys on equal grounds, because this one nation is like straight up just done it already. And I don't mean like, they had socialist policies and they started taking out their own people and blah, blah, blah. I mean, like, we will out in the open, not even try to hide it, just drop bombs on people. How many dead in Iraq? Sweet Jesus, has China done that?
it really depends on how strained they are for resources and whether or not they're really going to lose. The difficult look in China when this broke out. What did we?
I think Tim Pool said in the video, like, they'd be more worried to come here because we have all these guns here. So people would, they'd be, you know, more countries, other countries would be more afraid to invade here because everyone has guns. You know, there's more guns than people here. So they ain't going to the south, you know, they got guns everywhere. It's like, first of all, you don't think this other country would know that. And second of all, like, give me any military on the planet, damn near any military on the planet, and say, hey, you guys, like, invade, like, the U.S. military will not step in, and you go fight people in the South. Like, these aren't muskets and shit, dude. They're gonna have fucking missiles and all that shit. And they're gonna have way more powerful weapons than normal civilians have walking around. Just being honest with you. If the U.S. military stepped in, that'd be a whole different question. But if the civilians on their arms with their guns and shit, like, first of all, probably like 3/4 of them are not some, probably more, maybe even more than that, are not some like trained, know how to coordinate army type people. Just being honest with you. A lot of them probably think just guns are cool. And they just, right? They hang on to the right as like a novelty. This is my Second Amendment. It's just a novelty thing to them. Like, yeah, look at this cool, you know, 357 Magnum I got. Look like Clint Eastwood, right? Yeah. Let's go to the shooting range. Meanwhile, these other dudes are like, we've been in warfare. We know what's going on. We know how to be tactical. You guys ain't got shit to hide in. But, you know. pro-Trump crowd. He's going to grift for them, for their pleasure. And their pleasure gets him paid.
We saw videos of them barricading people in their homes, welding their doors shut.
Yeah.
The doctor, whistleblower. There's one story Vice ran. A journalist was calling out all of these things, disappears for a month, comes back a month later all happy, like, government's great, we love them.
Really?
Yeah. We know what they do. We've seen videos. Now, this could be propaganda, because I'm in America, so of course I'm getting this information. Maybe the U.S. is trying to, build this up. But I think you take a look at it.
You don't make it sound like it could be propaganda when you're talking to your own audience in your tiny fucking box. You sound pretty fucking confident there. What changed, Tim? Oh, different audience. Must grift to perfection.
That kind of behavior, the willingness to do anything by any means necessary. And at what point do you get one person who's in charge saying, I will not be the captain of a ship that sinks? I look to, well, I don't want to get super political in American history, but I view it as you've got a leader of a country, and as people are looking at him, he says, this will be the year my country ceases to exist. F that. Presses a button. I will not be I will not be the person who has that stain. It's hard to know, though, because it could be a leader saying, I will not be the person who destroys the world. I would rather go down in history as the, failure of my country. I think you back somebody into a corner and you get fight or flight.
Yeah, I guess you could say that about Iran and Venezuela. I don't know. I don't mean Tim when I say, I guess you could say, he can't say that. He's in grift mode, make that money. I don't know, it's just for fun. Just for fun at the end of the video. Just for fun. I'm curious.
The date is March 20th.
The date.
And just his news stories on their own. And
the far left outraged. Don Lemon, AOC. Trump is gonna win.
It's just this fucking guy, man. This guy. Someone's gonna end his shit. It's gonna happen. And he will disappear to his skate park and money. He will disappear. And honestly, I've had some people tell me they like Tim Pool and all that. It's like, fuck. If you paid attention to information, like information going on here, and then you watched him, you'd be like, oh fuck, is this guy like, is he goading people? Is he like hurting people along to somewhere? Like it looks like that. And I'm like, yeah, probably right to his bank account. He's like, your views equal money. So, granted, I understand it's you listening to a guy who's saying stuff you want to hear. It's like, I don't think that he's honestly doing it. To be quite honest with you. All right, that's it for me rambling and just talking shit. Subscribe if you like, comment, agree, disagree. I know there's some people that like Joe Rogan too. I think he's a fucking idiot. I think he's a coward. There's a whole bunch of words I could throw at Joe Rogan. Just simple dumb guy logic. The video I played you about him talking about circumcision, right? Man, how could kids are dying? We need to talk about this. And it's like, so yeah, kids die in foreign countries too. But you'll have someone who will go up there and just sell the bullshit. And right, who crapped on what's his name? Shane Smith, I think his name is, the Vice dude. Someone crapped on him. I think it might have been Jimmy Dore crapping on him. This guy's a fucking whatever sellout, a shill or whatever. Like, right? He gets an interview with Obama and he just lets him fly, lets him skate by and all that. And Rogan's like, Shane wouldn't do that. He's a good guy. It's like, why? Because he had a drink with him? Because he said a funny joke. It's like, what? That's why Rogan's a fucking idiot. Holy shit. And if he ever stepped out of his lane and really looked at things, he might be like psychologically torturing himself. Like, oh fuck, I've had these people, and I just let them go. I just let all these ideas fly. I don't have to be mean to them. Just be like, yeah, but what about this? What the fuck is this? Wow, it must be crazy working for the CIA. Instead of like just doing some form of research. Or, just be a neutral party. Fine. Bring on the other ideas, bring on the other narratives. Right? Whitney Webb is considered to be like, she's not someone that would be considered like, oh, this person would hurt the show a lot. I think she would eventually because of the shit she would talk about, but the personality and all that, right? She's not like a Ryan Dawson who's like, fuck that guy, fuck that guy, fuck that guy. Right? That's more of Dawson's lane, which is cool to me. It's just, normies don't want to hear so much of that. Well, normies like Rogan wouldn't want someone like that around. But Whitney Webb, who's been on Tom DeLonge, whatever the fuck his name is, Tim DeLonge, right? She's been on that show, and that dude's been on Rogan. So it's like, hey, why not get Whitney Webb and give her freedom? Don't try to lock her into the Epstein stuff, and then you don't pay attention to, like, she has information on all the COVID shit and Bill Gates and Microsoft and all this fucking bullshit. Probably has 9/11, Israel stuff, all that. Let's see. Would Rogan let that happen? Alright. Like I said, that's it for me. So yeah, tell me in the comment section. Is Rogan a fucking idiot or not? Is he innocent? Is he a shill? I don't think he's a shill, but would you consider him a shill? Is he just an idiot? Or is he just really good at what he does? I fucking doubt that. And then tell me about Tim Pool. Is he a grifter? Is he being honest? Is this just how he is? Maybe he's a little nervous when he's in front of other people, so he tones his shit down. Or is he just grifting? Like, I have a box here with my audience, and I can play my role there, but when I step out, I need to maintain credibility. So I'll avoid certain things and never say the things that I actually say when no one's around. I won't do that here. Money. You tell me. Or is he just correct about what he's saying? Yeah. You tell me. Don't forget to donate. Devon's Journey to Recovery GoFundMe link in the description box. And with all that said, give this video a thumbs down.
Say you wanna get in, and then you wanna get out. When you get the money to buy yourself a car, so how will you wear your leisure? You zipper back and front on the fence together. Weekends and